This is the 2017 Lynx from the Royal Canadian Mint. It is well struck and balanced and well worth a solid look for your collection. Years back, the Royal Canadian Mint had a Predator series. This was a group of 4 iconic Canadian predators: the cougar, the lynx as you see here today, the wolf, and the grizzly. Each of these animals are iconic in their own right, but this series is iconic as well, as it helped usher in a wildlife series that is really one of the best in bullion coins. Canada Bullion always seems to invoke the strongest connections with the natural world, and this coin falls right in line with that. So, why would you spend your money on a coin like this? That's a great question and one worth addressing. There is a double-edged sword with this series, which we will discuss when we place it on our 60-point scale, but it has to do with the mintage. 2017 was a time where the diversity of bullion coins was a fraction of what it is today. We had less series globally, but most series had higher mintages. This coin has a much higher mintage number, which is actually in some ways a good thing. This means that you can still get your hands on things like this years after they were minted, but often you need to wait for a good sale for it to make sense as premiums rise. This coin sells consistently under current prices, where spot is $29.67 for about $39, which is around $10 over spot. This can seem a lot like a coin like this unless you are needing to complete the series for your collection. But there are ways to get it cheaper if you wait. For example, frequently I peruse APMEX, and on many occasions I have 2 ways of getting this coin on the cheap. It seems that there are many sales that include this coin in 2 particular ways. Sometimes it's a direct sale where I've seen this coin as low as spot plus, let's say $3, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I also see when they have a random series sale, which is basically a gamble where they get to select a Canadian BU coin from their vault and send it to you, and you don't know what you get till you get it. And that usually has deeper discounts, and what that usually also means is that they have high volumes of those products, and so they just want to move the inventory, so they end up selling it at random for that reason. Either way, it will put you on a path to still have some growth of value on this coin over time before it reaches some type of a plateau. In 10 years, with just the valuation of the dollar being less, meaning we might see spot maybe in the neighborhood of $45 to $50 because, as time goes, the dollar does diminish, which likely means that you would have spot plus 5 or 10 on top of that, which means that if you were to buy this coin even for $40, you would be looking at something like $50 to $55 if you were not in a hurry to sell. This being said, if you happen upon a BU version of this coin or maybe a series like this coin at a shop or a show, or maybe even a sale catches your eye at a place like APMEX, maybe you should think twice before passing on it. So now let's see what our 60-point scale has to say about this coin. When we look at the Obverse, we are met with a golden age of Obverse iconography. We see the late Queen depicted by Susan Blunt upon faint radial lines in the field. This is a classic image that we often associate with the Royal Canadian Mint, especially if you are fond of maples. It is more than a classic scene, and I scored an 8. When we move to the reverse, we have our feline friend, the lynx, which in many ways is the upgraded version of a bobcat. The bobcat is a creature that I featured in our American Lunar series, and the lynx, being a bobcat with a "but wait, there's more" quality, shows the resolve and respect I have for this animal. I love the design, as the ambush-style leap is often a means of hunting, and the thrill of the pursuit is something this feline is more than adept in performing. We see what seems to be a combination of both here. The almost classicism in the art makes this feel like a real scene rather than a manufactured one. Emily Domstra, the artist who made sure to carry over the radial lines from the obverse, breaking up what would have been a flat field. I also particularly love the way the front paws break the fourth wall, so to speak, leaping through the legend as if being the first to complete a marathon. I love everything about this, and it scores a 10. Mintage is our next area. As noted before, in these times, there were a fraction of the series that we see today. One of the trade-offs of having less series in the marketplace back in the day was higher mintage numbers within those series. The first coin in the Canadian Predator series had a mintage of 1 million coins, where this, just a year later in the second issue, dropped by 50% to 500,000, which in today's standard is quite high, and unfortunately scores at a 3. Now for cultural significance. There are actually 4 species within this genus. The focus on this coin is the Lynx canadensis, which is notably the Canadian lynx. Yes, that's right, this animal is so Canadian, they named it the Canadian lynx. It does have a range that reaches throughout Canada and even quite a bit of the upper United States, but in Canada it is not as threatened due to the vast open untouched wild of the landscape, where in the northern parts of the United States there are some areas with increasing declined population due to Americans' population density. It is safe to say that this feline is as Canadian as Michael Bublé singing "Oh Canada" to a flock of Canadian geese, so it scores a 10. Collectibility is next, and Canadian silver has had its fair share of generations of collectibility. It went through fiascos like the Royal Mint in the UK is dealing with today with milk spotting, but I would argue that this is still a golden age for the Royal Canadian Mint. It helped usher in to us a realm where we find ourselves today. This series reimagined the way silver bullion was viewed in the marketplace and tested the waters on market demand for unique silver products. This series, even with higher mintage, is still in demand, and though it is not Kookaburra level with demand, it is probably the next ring down, so I score it a 9. When it comes to uniqueness, we have another well-played moment. There are 4 felines in the genus Lynx, 2 of which are American. We have the 2 which are in the Americas, the bobcat and the lynx, and we have 2 which are Eurasian versions. In the coin world, the only coins I could find that were not Canadian featured the Eurasian species, making this highly unique. It would seem that the Canadians have a handful of coins featuring this feline, but none quite like this, so I scored a 10, bringing it to our final thought and score. The Canadian lynx leaps across the line at a 49 out of 60, just missing the elite mark due to being born in an earlier generation of bullion where large mintage was the norm. This being said, I think in its day it would have been elite, and due to that I think that I still consider it elite even though I cannot proclaim it, as our scale has spoken. It is a coin and truly a series worth a hard look by each of you. Thank you for enjoying this coin with me today, and as always, please remember to stay classy and current with the culture of currency.